Okay, welcome Laolu to this chat. I think one of the questions I'm interested in for us to explore is how community groups and organizations like SCORE, who I represent, can be much more proactive in meeting the needs of patients and their families.
I think that's a brilliant question. I think the first thing that jumps to mind is, especially amongst the younger demographic of sickle patients, is that we're on social media.
Indeed.
So there has to be a way to engage us digitally,
Yes.
and it can be across all platforms. You'll find them across from WhatsApp to Facebook to Instagram, and I think that's just a great visual way to quickly reach out to the community. In terms of other things, I think having probably cluster groups
Okay.
within um, different communities, within different local authorities, as almost a support network if people do need that, and making people aware that those services are available as well, because not everybody knows this. There is no, I guess, centralized place where people can go and be like, I've got everything that I need to know about sickle cell and the community around it.
So one of the things we are looking at is what you've mentioned, which is we have a repository of information where people can go to. But part of our interest at SCORE is also to see how we can engage the wider community who are not, in a sense, directly affected, but to kind of raise awareness. And you mentioned the use of social media, but because of the pandemic, it's also as if we've plateaued out. So people are zoomed out and things like that. So how would you suggest that we use social media in a much more effective and interactive way to engage people in this whole sickle cell improvement of disease management?
I think storytelling and illustration are fantastic.
Nollywood.
Perhaps not Nollywood, or if it is, make it suitable for we're in the West for Western screening, and I think illustration is also a great tool that can be harnessed to create that visual connection with a wider community, so that people do start understanding that actually this is a very serious condition and affects those around them, from people they work with to those that they're in school with. And I think that way they can start to better understand sort of the issues that people go through that are living with the condition.
Okay, that would be quite interesting. The use of animation, for example,
exactly.
which is quite popular, so that may be one way forward. The other aspect we are looking at is the older generation seem to have a different viewpoint from what the younger generation. Have you come across those challenges?
Not as much, just because I don't interact with the older generation as much. I do think that stigma around sickle cell with millennials is now fading, because we're a lot more open. We're a bit more. We like to speak our minds.
Good.
More.
That's what we want.
Yeah, and I just think as people kind of own their story, that confidence comes with a certain level of confidence to be able to speak candidly and say, right, this is what I'm going through, and it's not just me, it's countless others,
Yes.
and these are faces. And I think from that point onwards, we will start to have a grander or a better, a fuller societal approach towards tackling the condition.
Okay. SCORE also works in Africa. Would you say that there's a different concept about young people's view of sickle cell disease in Africa as against those who live in the West or in the UK or in Europe, for example?
Potentially, because of cultural elements that are involved. I think within the West there's a dichotomy between British and African culture, and whereas if you're just submerged within the African culture back on the continent, certain cultural nuances might be at play a bit more, that then either prevent you from speaking out or seeking help.
Yes.
And I think those are probably the primary challenges back home for those with sickle cell.
So part of one of the things we're looking at is how we can join young patient groups in Africa with young patient groups here, so that in a sense you could share your experiences, own the stories like you mentioned, but also see how we could move, that cohort of young people forward. So any thoughts about that?
I think it's a fantastic idea, and definitely one that should be explored with, I guess, with a real intent to bring those communities or to merge those communities together. And I just think, just to reiterate the point, that social media is just a great interface, and it's a nice, smooth transition, or it provides a platform for that ease of transition to be able to bring those communities together.
That's great. So we've got a lot of work to do.
Absolutely, but I think that's the brilliance of it. As the community builds, it naturally draws people that want to help and to be part of the process of making a difference.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. So the conference will give us an opportunity to explore these topics further. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.